Hi there, Rob speaking. Just wanted to talk to you very briefly about the word team today and what it really means. I think a lot of the time people, and a lot of people in actual fact, know the acronym for team. So together everyone achieves more. But I prefer an African proverb which tells us that to go fast we can go alone, but to go far we need to go together. Now, why is that? Let's take an example because, we've said at the beginning, together everyone achieves more. It's a great acronym and so forth. But just why is that so true? Well, for a start, today we live in a highly specialized world. So we live in a world where tasks tend to be very specialized. We just have to look at a production line to understand that if every single person on a car production line, for example, if every single person in that line doesn't do their job correctly, the car is not going to work correctly. What I mean by that is, obviously, when they're putting the engine in the car, the engine has to go in the right place. All the brake lines and so forth have to be put in by someone else. Then even to the point that the person that screws on, one piece of the engine equipment is very important, and nothing can be missing. So basically everyone has to do their job for that car to come off the end of the production line and finish all the quality tests. But I'd say it's a lot more important. I'd like to take another example again of why teams are so important. And this time I'd like to talk about, if you imagine yourself, any of us, in fact, myself included here, trying to build a house. Well, building a house, yeah, that's great. Sounds great. It'd be a great project. It would certainly be a lifetime's project if you're going to do it on your own. Because, in fact, if we start, as we do with skills and knowledge and competence, if we start with the foundations, here in the very, very concrete sense, if you'll excuse the pun of the term, you're going to have to lay some kind of concrete foundations upon which to build your house. Now, for a start, you need to know how to make the concrete. You need to know how to put the concrete, how deep the concrete has to be in order to be sustainable and to sustain the eventual weight of the house, to make sure it doesn't move, which is very important, obviously. You know how to mix the concrete, so that's another expertise. What amounts of concrete, what amounts of sand, what amounts of lime, for example, go into the mix, and at what time does it have to be put in? At how much time does it have to be revolved in the mixer? And then, how long does it have to be left to set? And are there other products that need to be put on this concrete in order for it to set? Now, we've only just started building our house. So imagine that you've learned for yourself just how to do that, and you've got on well with that. Well, that's great. So you've got the foundations. So what do you need to do now? Well, I think you need to build some walls. And if you're going to build the walls yourself, this is going to take you an extremely long time, because bricklaying or laying concrete slabs together vertically is not easy. And it's a skill, and the people who do that are called bricklayers. When you get to that other point, then you say, well, okay, we've got the walls now, so let's have to put some windows in there. Okay, another skill. So you have to have a glazer to put your windows in your house. And then there's no roof on the house yet, so let's put a roof on there. Okay, so let's get a slater, let's get a mason in there, and let's get that that mason work finished on the walls. And then the mason and the tiler to get the roof. Oh, but before they get there, we forgot the joiner, because the joiner has to build something which they can build the roof onto, the frame for the roof. Okay, so how many people have we talked about so far? Someone to lay the foundations, someone to build the walls, someone to put the windows in. Now, if that's all the same person, well, the multi-skilling and the multitasking is absolutely fantastic. But normally, if people have one skill and they practice that all the time, they're going to be much better at it, aren't they, than someone that has all these skills. I would have thought so in any case, and it seems quite obvious to me. So you've got the roof on the house. That's great, fantastic, congratulations. Maybe now you need to insulate the house, yeah? So you need to put insulation on all the walls. So another specialist has to come in, or someone to put plaques on the walls after the insulation's gone in there. And woe betide, remember to leave spaces to put the plugs and the electricity into the wall. So if they don't do that, obviously there's no place for the wiring to go. So the wiring has to be done before the plaque is finished. Yeah? And then the plaques have to be built around the wiring, not the other way around. But as you can see, there's an enormous number of different skills. And one of the things about a team, and this is a good example of a house, is that these have to be coordinated in a way that we have to make sure, first of all, that we have everyone with the appropriate skills to build our house. And then we have to make sure that they are doing things at the right time. For example, you're not going to have the decorator in to decorate the walls before the electrician's finished the wiring, or before the guy that's putting the plaques on the walls has actually finished putting the plaques on the walls. There's nothing to paint otherwise, and nowhere for the electricity to come out to make your light switches. So things have to be done in the right order. Another great example would be for someone to say, okay, let's finish all the tiling and everything in the bathroom. Yeah, great. Has the plumber finished the work yet? Is the piping actually done? Well, maybe that person would have to finish the work before the second person. So apart from having all these different skills in order to be able to build a house, you also need to have coordination. And we could call that a team leader, we can just call it a leader, we can call it a manager. And when we're talking about management, the manager's job in this case, whether it's an architect or whether it's someone else, a building company or whatever, a foreman, that person has to have the capacity to know when things have to happen. He has to plan in advance, like most good managers and leaders, has to plan in advance, has to make sure that everything's going to happen at the same time. But not only that everything is going to happen at the same time, and he's planned everything with all of these different people with these different skills, he also has to make sure, for example, that the raw materials are available. Yeah. So this would be obviously part of a manager's job too, because whatever field you're in, you're always going to have resources that you require. I mean, everyone has had to deal with a budget at one time or another. So this house example is obviously a very concrete example, as I said earlier, where you obviously need money to buy the materials and to pay the people to build your house. So you're going to have, obviously, human resources like you do in most companies. You're also going to have financial resources, which you need. You're also going to have physical resources. That means machines and so forth to make their jobs easier. So you don't want, for example, building a house, you're hopefully going to give a nail gun to the joiner and not ask him to put in 6-inch nails with a light aluminium hammer, which is going to be impossible. So they have to have the right tools. So material resources. And then we have to think about administrative things and immaterial resources. And for example, if we're talking about immaterial resources in this case, what we would be talking about is make sure there's a building permit to actually build a house. Because if you end up building a house where you're not supposed to build it, and then the council or local government agency comes and tells you, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to pull your house down. Well, that's going to be very expensive, isn't it? But in any business, in any case, you'll have immaterial resources, whether these are patents, whether these are copyrights, whether these are logos that belong to the company. So these things have to be taken care of too. So as I've said, the team has to know, and the leader of the team has to know which resources are available and make sure that the right tools and the right resources are available at the right time for the team. Now, once all of that's done, and once he's made sure that he's selected every person in the team, obviously, we talked about planning earlier. So it's not only about planning, it's also about ensuring that these people can work together in a safe and constructive manner. Constructive, you'll excuse the pun once again because we're talking about house, but this applies to any team. So a team that's come together for any project really needs to ensure that everyone understands what everyone else's role is in the team, and that they cannot achieve the ultimate objective, in this case, to build a house, if they don't work together properly. Or they might achieve a result which is not an optimal result, so the house won't be well built. Or they might not achieve the result in the time that was given for the project. Remember, we mentioned financial resources. Well, a budget doesn't stretch forever, so there will be a budget for building the house, and that has to be seen to be stuck to as well, the budget. So I think we can all agree that this can be applied. This analogy of building a house can be applied to any kind of team management, because you always need to manage the resources. You always need to manage the people. You always have to ensure that you have the correct experts and that work well together in order to achieve any given objective. So that's what I want to say about teams and the acronym team. I hope you've enjoyed that, and I'll see you in the very near future for some more stuff on management and leadership. Yeah, thank you very much.